Hi, my name's Mark Colton, I'm the lead singer in Credo. You're watching Live Prog, and keep watching because it's bloody great.
Hi everyone, Marcel Haster here from Live Prog. It is time to bring you a new album review. Now if you look back at 2013, I can say we had a very good year when it comes to music. We have heard a lot of amazing albums. I have been able to bring you a lot of reviews of fantastic albums. I haven't heard all albums that have been released. I haven't been able to review all albums that I got and that have been released. So there's a lot of great music to listen to. And now I'm going to bring you even more great music with this album, Redacted by Also Eden. The new album. I remember when they announced it, I saw the title Redacted, and as you can see here, well, put it like this. There you have it. Yep, there you have it. As you can see, they put it in brackets, and I had thought it was a working title or an idea or something. At that moment, I didn't have the idea that that was the title of the new album. Well, and when I realized that, I became excited, of course, because I have been following this band for quite a few years. You know what? Let me quickly grab something. My Also Eden collection. Alright, a quick rundown of the past Also Eden albums. In 2006, they released About Time, their first album, and I am so happy that a friend of mine said, "You gotta listen to this album, you will love it." Well, I did, and I became a fan of the band instantly. Then in 2008 they released It's Kind of You to Ask. Of course, I ordered the album from their website as soon as I found out, and again, this is a fantastic album. And then they got an album that marked a significant change in the history of Also Eden, and that is this one, The Differences as Light EP. This one introduced a new vocalist. I mean, they had other lineup changes in the past, but I say a singer is very significant because that can change the entire sound of the band. Fortunately, with Rich Harding, they found a fantastic singer. I reviewed this album when I had just started doing video reviews on Live Prog. If I remember correctly, this was the third album I reviewed. Back then, Rich Harding just had a really terrible motorcycle accident, was in the hospital, things weren't looking very bad. Fortunately, he recovered. Well, he's still on the way to really fully recovering, but at least he made it, and we're all very happy about that. And then in 2011 they released this one, Think of the Children, and I really love this album very much. I think it's an amazing album in the Also Eden catalog. And then we come to 2013, and then we have this one, Redacted, that I'm telling you about in this very review. Again, this album brings a few changes. Well, two. Again, a personnel change. Ian Hodson, the keyboard player, and Steve Dunn, the bass player, both long-term members of the band, unfortunately leave. Leaving a void, in the band. Well, fortunately, excellent musicians have found to take in their places and also add their influences to the sound of Also Eden. On the bass, Graham Lane, and on keyboards, Howard Sinclair. That brings in the second change. And the second change, I will start with mentioning the first song on the album, Red River. When I was listening to that, I was wondering, of course, how this album is going to sound. I hadn't heard any samples of the album, so when I got this one, that was the first time I listened to it. And when I was listening to the first track, Red River, that starts out very calm, very quiet, very ambient. And I thought, wow, this is really nice. I like this very much. You really feel comfortable, you're going to sit down and you're going to relax. And then you have that moment, you hear something, and before you realize what it is, these guitars come crashing down on you and really destroying your peace. Now I looked it up, it happens exactly on the mark of 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Measure the load. Bend the looking glass, deflect the light.
And that guitar sound, wow, that was fantastic, but it is completely different. In the previous albums, I always enjoyed the guitars of Simon Rogers. I think he's an amazing guitar player. I loved his sounds on the previous album. I also loved a lot what he did on the last Cosmograph album. But what he does here is completely different. In the past, his guitar sound was very clean. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. But here they changed it and they made it a little dirtier and a little nastier. It gives the whole sound of the album a rougher edge. And I like that very much, especially with these haunting vocals by Rich Harding. You know, that works very well and that creates a little bit of a different sound and a little bit of a different atmosphere. And that works well on this album. Throughout the album, I have to say that the songwriting level is really fantastic. They created some amazing songs here which will keep you listening to this album. You will not lose your attention when you listen to this. It is not that you listen to this album and then, you know, get easily distracted, because when you listen to this album, you have these moments like, hey, what was that? Well, what are they doing here? And when you have those kind of moments in the music, you're sure that you keep the attention. Also, I found it a very dynamic album. There's a lot to enjoy about it. They really bring in certain breaks and certain hooks and certain changes. All things to make the album interesting to listen to. I would say, songwriting-wise, composition-wise, this is the best album they have released. Definitely. Also, musically, there's a lot to enjoy on the album. I'm not going to mention everything. You just gotta listen to it yourself. I will mention 3 songs and that's it. Then the rest you have to listen for yourself. I was telling you about the guitar sound of Simon Rogers, and throughout the album the guitar sound is really fantastic. But there was one track where I really enjoyed it very much. These guitars really are the selling point of that particular song, and that is A Lonely Idea. I really think that song stands out as because of the guitars in them. That is, if you like guitar sounds, you will love that song very much. Another song that I noticed something interesting was Endless Silence. There you have this sort of a spoken word part that reminded me a little bit of Roger Waters on Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. Well, I love that album very much, so I really like it when Rich Harding does that, and it really works on that song very much. So that is really good. And then we have Distortion Field, and that I like that song, and I also like the whole idea how they created that song, because you have a spoken part by Jane Setter from Crimson Sky, sort of a machine standing at a gate, you know, and they say you're entering the distortion field, and when the song ends, you're leaving the distortion field, and it's like you're going through a whole kind of different, you know, zone or universe when you were in that song, But the funny thing is, when it comes to, I mean, you have the whole idea, what is is this a prog band, is it a progressive band? It is absolutely a progressive band. I don't find also even a prog band. At the same time, I found the sound in Distortion Field very proggy. You know, I was listening to that and was realizing that it has, of course, great guitars. It also has these amazing synthesizer parts by Howard Sinclair. I like that very much. I also heard a lot of amazing bass lines in it, especially already in that first song, Red River. At the beginning, in that ambient part, there's also really nice bass line by Graham Lane. But again, throughout the album, these guys are really fantastic musicians, bringing you an album that you can really listen over and over again.
Edging inches into yards and it's never over. Turn to the mark and run again. It's never over.
Maybe it sounds a little bit strange, but I'd say this is their most mature album to date. You know, they don't have the idea that they need to show off again. Look how good I am with these solos and everything. They really can compose very solid, and very enjoyable songs on this album, and that is why this album is really nice to listen to. I'm going to tell you something more. Let me think. I wrote down some notes. You don't see them, but I see them, and I'm thinking, is there anything else I'm going to tell you? No, I'm not. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I'm going to tell you something, and that's something very important. The album clocks about 48 minutes, and you would say that is a bit short, but there is a very good reason for it, and a reason I am kind of envious of, and I really have to save some money for it, because this is the first Also Eden album that is also released on vinyl. And of course you have a limit in track listing, and again, you know, instead of, they could have easily created 80 minutes of music, but they chose for 48 minutes of quality music that you can also, you know, put on vinyl instead of 80 minutes and maybe filler tracks and whatever. So very wise decision, and of course 48 minutes is a very nice time for an album. And if you're interested in that vinyl, find Plain Groovy on Facebook or on the internet, and there you can order that album. I would suggest you do that if you love vinyl and you like good music, and I think Also Eden is a fantastic band. They show, I mean, in the past, Rich Harding had of course a little bit of the background that he's being singer in a lot of Marillion tribute bands. You don't find any traces of that on this album. Maybe, I mean, I remember on Think of the Children there was a song where I thought he sounded a lot like Fish. Well, you can skip that on this album. This album sounds like Also Eden and nothing else, period. So, I would say check it out, Redacted by Also Eden. The end! Redacted by Also Eden. Have you heard the album, or do you maybe even have the vinyl? What do you think of it? Let me know as a comment on my YouTube channel. And while you're there, well, please click on the subscribe button so you will stay up to date on all the new videos I will be uploading. Of course, you can also visit my website, liveprog.com. You can follow me on Facebook or Twitter, or both if you like. And I hope you will see me at a new review.
So she took us for